for this presentation, I would like it to be interactive, if possible. I think it'll be the impact of what I have in my brain, at least, would come across more. And by participating, I just mean how can I say it? Just in your mind, put yourself into someone else's shoes. That's one aspect of it. So to mentally participate, and then also what I mean is to physically participate if a thought comes to your mind. I'm welcoming that because this topic I don't fully understand myself, and it's something that Elder Parmenter and Elder Tess have been talking about. It's like the between when you look at conspiracy theories and racism and sexism, it would be easy for me as a Black person to talk about racism, but is really the easy way out, because in the conversations that we would have about racism, someone else understanding would benefit me. But I really like what Elder Tess said one day. She said that she could talk about sexism all day, but it kind of takes her to a dark place because when you have firsthand experience in these things, it impacts you more. For instance, last year when the George Floyd incident happened, and because it was on the news constantly, it really impacted me, and it took me to kind of like a dark place mentally. And so the topic, what I would like to talk about today, is sexism. And the sexism is something that me as a male, I never had to deal with in a way that would impact my life negatively. And I know that's the same case for most men, though there is some abuse, child abuse and things like that happen. But for the most part, the issue of sexism is the males being the perpetrators and the females being the victims. So that's why I don't truly understand it, but I want to have a greater understanding on how this has impacted women. I want to put myself in their shoes. So with that, there's a saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Is that, or did I flip it? Anyone know? I had it straight yesterday.
No, that's correct.
Okay. Men are from Mars, so Eminem, men and Mars, I remember that, and the women are from Venus. Now there is a book written about that with that title, and the gentleman who wrote the book, he states, and I just read basically I guess it was a synopsis of the book, and he stated that men not only are physically different, but psychologically different, and there are concrete ways in which men and women are different. And we know that is not true. The only difference is, as some people came out, as they did basically a rebuke to the book, they say that those differences are only because of societal norms. So, and when you do basically blind test and you ask people certain questions, how they think and things like that, the differences were not even notable just looking at the statistics. So there's truly no difference between male and female. But what I want to ask you guys is, how can it be true that women are from Venus and men are from Mars? Why are these two, the males on one planet and women on another planet? And that's a question I'm looking for an answer to from you guys. So here's the participation.
I've got an idea, but I don't want to, I talk a lot, it seems like. So if somebody else has an idea, let them.
No, go ahead. I have no idea how long my notes are going to take me, so.
Okay. So men being from Mars. So I studied Latin and Latin and Greek in high school, mainly Latin though. So Mars is the Latin name for the god of war, who in the Greek is, it's been a while, I think it's Apollo though. And Venus is representative of the Greek goddess Aphrodite. Ares, yes, thanks Nathan. Ares was the Greek god of war. Mars is the Latin name, just as the Greek goddess Aphrodite was named Venus to the Romans in Latin, to the Latin-speaking people. So, and I didn't read John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars. My parents both did. So when I was growing up, I heard them talk about it quite a lot. But it seemed to put men and women on these two. Oh, sorry. So Ares being the god of war, Mars, Aphrodite, Venus being the goddess of love. So men, of course, in a sexist world are the warriors. Mm-hmm. Only men can be warriors. Women right. Mm-hmm. are delicate and loving. That's what, you know, Venus is most represented by, is like love, right? But what's interesting is that, so these are two really ingrained stereotypes in our brains, and it's reinforced because, and this is one of the things from John Gray's book, that it started with the premise that men and women don't understand each other. Mm-hmm. Women have a way of speaking and learning and talking, and men have a certain way of speaking and learning and talking, or doing rather. And they don't oftentimes, and they're often, you know, opposing each other. You know, one is having to constantly like be the counterbalance. If you understand, so the Earth being in the center of these two planets, Mars being on the outer ring from the sun, Venus being in between the Earth and the sun. So there's these two planets. This is how the physical universe is set up. So there's the, you know, if you think of this visual concept of these two forces being on either side of the planet, kind of like the angel and the devil. So there's these two diametrically opposed things that have to push against each other. Venus has to, love has to come against, you know, war. And these stereotypes and these ideas have perpetuated so long that men and women just said, I don't know what you're saying. Men, I grew up with my dad really not listening to my mom. And my mom, you know, having to tell my dad things over and over again, because it's this, well, men are from this other planet that don't understand what women are saying, and women just need to stay in their own planet and not venture over into the realm of the men, because everybody has their own way of doing things. So it's just best if we go to our own corners. We come together when the mood strikes, or, you know, when we have something to accomplish or create something, a baby. But other than that, you know, nobody tries to fulfill the other roles. I don't know if that was helpful.
Oh, no, it was. Yeah, I was just looking for why, and I think you stated it, why we could say that women are from Venus and men are from Mars. And it's because of those societal norms that we grow to expect. And men are, you really see it in Hollywood and the movies and all that. Men are, the idea is reinforced that we can't understand women. And so what do? We build us a man cave, a place where we can go to when we're not understanding the wife, or we go into sports, we hang around with a bunch of other guys that are thinking just like us, and all of us say, we don't understand women. And then women, they kind of do the same thing. They believe that he'll just never understand. But what often happens, the woman is really trying the entire time to get the male to understand where she's coming from. So did anybody else have a thought on that? I'll take one more if anyone has a thought on why could we say, why would it be valid for us to say men are from Mars and women are from Venus? Okay, so I'm gonna say that the idea of men from Mars and women from Venus is valid because, well, in the context of this presentation, is because of sexual abuse. So when we think about John 3:16, it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life." I think I just missed a big part of it. So it said, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life." Oh yeah, so the next verse. "For God sent his son into the world to condemn the world, not to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved." So in this verse, we see God giving us his son, right? And it's for the purpose of, restoration. It's for the purpose of forgiveness. It's for the purpose of love. All of heaven's gift, all of heaven was wrapped up in this one gift of Christ. So heaven gave everything for us, right? So that we can be forgiven and have a relationship with God forever and in heaven, and a willing, active, participating, love on both sides relationship. And so when we look at the word, there's another way to look at what Christ did. And hopefully I'm not mixing up sympathy and empathy, but empathy is when you share in another person's whatever issue they're having, right? You put yourself in their shoes. And that's what Christ did for us. He came, he put himself in our shoes. He became a man to know exactly what it is. I mean, by man, I'm saying human. He became a man so that we could go to him and know that he truly feels our pain, our sorrow, our joy, our happiness, right? So God showed empathy by putting himself in our shoes. And that's what we are to do as we love one another, as we hear these issues of racism, sexism, and homophobia, and these conspiracy theories, and all of these issues that we have. We are to place ourselves into another person's shoes and experience that to the very best of our ability, so we can understand and become one with somebody. And we constantly, by doing that, we're constantly winning each other to Christ day by day. So so that's where we're going to go with this. It's empathy. That's what I want us to see out of all of this. So by these by the story I'm about to go into, what I want us to do is, number one, we place ourselves into the woman's shoes. Okay, so we gotta think like a woman. And by that, I mean the experiences that that women have. I want us to really try to, as much as possible, put ourselves in their shoes. So, okay, so a young lady and a young man meet, right? And I'm gonna speak on the male's behalf because I know that pretty intimately because I've been a male my entire life. and I'm going to try to describe the woman's point of view. And I'm going to put it in these terms for a particular reason. So you just have to trust that what I'm saying in this story that I made up is true. And I'm saying trust that it's true as I read it, and then later I'm gonna give you the facts on why it is true. So this young lady and this young man, they meet, and the woman, when she sees him, she sees, okay, he seems happy. Uh, uh, he seems gentle. She's talked to her friend and she's told him all these qualities about him that makes him uh, a potential person that she would like to date. And so she's looking at his personality, his character, his disposition, his temperament, and his nature. So that's what she's going to see that's what she's looking for, brother, when she sees him. My mouth is getting dry, I'm sorry. So, all right, and now when he sees the woman, he sees her, and his first thoughts well, she's sexy, she's inviting, she's desirable, she's hot. He notices the size of her breast and her butt. She seems seductive by the way she dresses. She's provocative, and she's alluring. So the male, he's going to look at these attributes in a woman. And the reason why I said those things, and I tried to place it in those kind of harsh terms, because all of my life, growing up, every single guy that I've ever talked to, every single one of them, we talk about a woman, the first thing that we talk about is has something to do with her body type, right? So he sees that, and men, we are raised that way, basically, at least in the society we're in today. We're raised to look for how sexy a woman is, and then we take it to another level. So when a man sees the woman, and this is an intentionally harsh term, but it is used, at least in the environment that I grew up in, it's known, it's jargon, and it is the term hit it. So when a man sees the woman, he wants to hit it. Now, what does it mean? The it is talking about how he wants to have sex with her. So, but in the hit it, he's talking about her vagina. So when he says hit it, he separates the woman's physical part from her character. Now, which one of those makes up the woman? Is it her character or is it her body type? And we know it's her character. That's all we take to heaven. We're not taking these bodies to heaven, right? So this it becomes a symbol of ownership, a piece of property that a man can do whatever he wants to do with, regardless of what the person who actually owns the vagina thinks. So she becomes an obstacle that he conquers. And then what do? We tell our boys, we tell whoever, and we gossip And then this woman who was looking for these good attributes in the man, she now is being made, she is now being reduced to, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So I'm gonna start over. So it says her vagina becomes a piece of property that he takes ownership in, and he tries to conquer her. And by conquering her, all he wants to do is have sex with her. And once that action has taken place, he can be done with her or he can pursue her again, but he's gotten what he wants out of that woman. So that's what hit it means. That's the goal behind this term. That's the thought process behind this term. So let's say that let's say that the male, he hides what he truly desires. Hold on, I have to pause the video for a second. I'm sorry. So let's say before she realizes who he is, he tells her all the right things, right? And they go on, they date, and they eventually get married. And then life really begins after you get married, because now you are tied to this person legally. There's some ramifications now. There can be some punishment after marriage. So she notes that, okay, she probably sees a little something there, but he tells her all the right things. He tells her that he loves her and all of this, and they say these vows till death do us part, right? So they have a few children together. These years later, they have a few children together, and her body begins to change, and not necessarily physically, but there's also other changes that take place. There's hormones, different hormones that are produced after having a child in the male and the female. And so as she begins to change, and as these hormones in her cause her to change, which are natural, which need to be understood by men, and which are okay, her sex drive begins to dip. And instead of having, relations twice a week, let's say it turns to twice a month. And the husband starts to grow more frustrated due to this lack of physical relation. And so the wife begins to wonder, like, why is he so hell-bent on having sex so often when I told him that I wasn't in the mood? So she begrudgingly gives in so that her husband can be pleased, so he can relax, so he can be, so she can make his life better. All the time sacrificing how she really felt about something that is supposed to be an intimate form of, or one intimate expression of love. And I say one because there are many other expressions of love. So, and time again, year after year, this happens. And after the foray, the husband, he's happy again, right? And they go through this for some years, and after many arguments, they notice that they are growing apart. And the wife notes that the only time she is held or affection is shown is in the bedroom. Yet the husband says he loves her. She wonders, why is his love and affection limited to only sex? So let's talk about something. So that's the story I want us to have in our mind. So time after time, the husband's love is only shown during sex. compassion, love, tenderness, a gentle hand is only shown during sex. So let's look at something. 1 second. Okay, so we got that story in our mind. Okay, so okay, I'm not sure if I want to save that part. Okay, so let's talk about sexual trauma. Listen to this one. This is just terrible. The amount of women who have survived sexual assault is nearly the same percentage of men who experience verbal sexual abuse. Now, a woman who's actually been assaulted physically is the same percentage as men who have been verbally sexually abused. And by abuse, we mean unwanted or unsolicited advance. So every time a woman might say, "Oh man, I think you are just really fine," or she might tell her friends in a group, or as he walks by, they'll giggle. And the reason I'm saying is, as he walks by, the group of women might giggle because it's the same thing that the men would do, is they do a cat call to a woman. And they say, "Woohoo, look at you over there. Hey girl," things that happen all the time, unsolicited advance. Now, if we think about that, we know that that happens every day, all the time, where a woman or a male would talk to the opposite sex in a way that was unsolicited. Now, the same amount of women who have survived sexual abuse is equal to the amount of men who have experienced verbal sexual abuse. That is just it's just unbelievable. It's terribly sad. So let's go into some of these stats right here. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I just started. Okay. Can everyone see that? Well, good.
Yes.
Okay, cool, because I can't see anything but this note I have
Bottom
up
of the
there.
screen, we can't see the bottom of it, but we can see the top of it.
Okay, is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay. So, what I've done on this chart, you see I have the numbers 1 through 10 at the top. I put it's 10, excuse me. You see the number 10. So I took 10 names from sisters in our church. So number 1 is Elder Shaquetta Coleman. Number 2, Sister Kathy McGraw. Number 3, Sister Kathy Brown. Number 4, Sister Pam. Number 5, Sister Courtney Hine. Number 6, Sister Angelia Hine. Number 7, Sister Alyssa. Number 8, Sister Sue Ellen. Number 9, Sister Laura Lee. Number 10, Sister Penny. So I just needed the number 10, so I didn't include all the sisters because we're going to work with some percentages here. So the column on the left-hand side are just a few categories of different versions of sexual abuse, whether it's verbally, touching, and all that. So the first column we see there is 81% of women have been sexually harassed in some way. So all of the rows that I have here, they're all rounded down. So it's actually a little more than what you see here. So what I want us to do is, instead of having these numbers, these statistics as just numbers, I want us to think about, let's say we had only these 10 sisters in our church. More than 8 out of 10 of them would have experienced some form of sexual abuse. So when we go to church together with these sisters, when we go to the park with these sisters, when we interact with these sisters, more than 8 out of 10 have experienced some form of sexual abuse. Excuse me. So think about that as we look around. Let that sink in. If there were just 10 sisters in our church, and we have more than 10, so these percentages, the percentage would be the same, but it would be more sisters in our church that have experienced some form of sexual harassment. 81%. So that would be Elder Shaquetta, Sister McGraw, Sister Brown, Sister Penny, both Sister Hines, Sister Alyssa, and Sister Sue Ellen. And because I've rounded down, we can actually include Sister Laura Lee. So out of all the 10 women in our church, only Sister Penny would not have experienced some form of sexual harassment. So now let's go down to the next one. It's verbally harassed. Verbal sexual harassment. This column wouldn't let me put more words in without throwing off the shape and everything. So I want everything to be proportional. So everything in the left-hand column is sexual abuse of some sort, even though I might not have sex written down or sexually written down in the column. So in this next one, let me get the exact percentage real quick, because I closed that column. I think it was 77. 1 second, let me go to here really quickly.
Can I ask what your source is, where you're getting the statistics?
Yeah, this one is npr.org. They were one of the few places that had a survey that had more concrete data, but I could give the links. But this one is from npr.org. I just want to make sure I got this one percentage. Yeah, 77. Okay. So I rounded down. So 77% of women have been sexually harassed verbally. So if we look at all the sisters in the church, only 3 out of 10 would not have received some sort of sexual verbal harassment. The next column, 50% of women have been sexually touched, unsolicited sexual touch. The next row, this was 40%, I think it's actually 41% of women have been sexually harassed over the net. So some sort of being called out of her name, or being pressured, or an advance made online that reduces a woman to anything than being a woman. 34% of women have been physically followed. So 3 out of 10 women have been followed by a male. Genital flashing. I believe this one was 31% of women have experienced a male will pull out his genitalia in front of them, unsolicited. More than 20% have been sexually assaulted. And then this next one, I forget the exact number, but more than 60% of women have been sexually harassed in public. The next one, more than 30% have been sexually harassed on the job, and a little more than 30% have been sexually harassed at their home. And this one was not including, something done by the husband, but like someone else that comes, a colleague would come and they have some type of meeting or whatever, where it'd be at her home, and more than 30% have been sexually harassed while at home. So I'm going to go back over to Zoom. I forgot the, you know how we can, we have that stat that we just looked at where I use, 10 women, but you can also divide 10 by 3, right? You could work with the same, you could come out with the same ratios. So if we made that 10 women, I got it in my head, hopefully I can say it clearly. We take those 10 women and make it 3 women, right? Anytime we had a stat that was up more than 30%, then that would mean that 1 out of my 3 daughters would have experienced that. Any stat that had more than 6 out of 10, 2 of my daughters would experience this abuse. And anytime it was above 90%, which we didn't get quite there, but actually the 81% would be like 2.5, something like that. So I can say that all 3 of my daughters, I can safely say, if we're just looking at averages, will experience some type of sexual abuse in her life. And that is it's heartbreaking. There was another thought I wanted to say, and it just skipped my mind. Okay, it'll come back to me. So let's continue on in the story that we had went through a little while ago with the male and the female. So after the woman is wondered why his love is only limited to sex, one day she gets hurt and is unable to have sex anymore. What do you think the husband would do? He would either leave her, shame and treat her badly, or he would stay married but have a mistress, right? Because he never listened to her he never cared enough to listen to her perspective. And it's more than an 80% chance that she had experienced some sort of sexual abuse. So when they meet, she's not looking at the physical. She wants someone that is real, because the chances are she has received some sort of trauma. So she's looking beneath the surface, the exterior of what you look like. She's looking for character. She's looking for things that are true emblems of love. Because sex can be an emblem of love, but it can be an emblem of hate, as many women are raped. So the woman, she goes into this thinking beneath the surface. And it's not because it was any Bible worker that came to her home that's telling her how to be a woman that finds a good man. No, common sense and reality have told her that sex doesn't equal love. Whereas the male, he goes into it because we are raised that way, we're thinking that's the way that that's the way you're supposed to do things, right? So her outlook is totally different from his when it comes to this this union of two people. And then what happens next is that, well, not what happens next, but as a result of this, oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say earlier. I forgot this. This was an important step. The majority of women receive this abuse. I think it was the majority. Well, I'm gonna just say majority for this purposes. The majority of women receive some sort of abuse in her preteen years. Now, preteen is ages 9 to 12. 9 to 12. I have a 9-year-old daughter, Lydia. I have a 12-year-old daughter, Olivia. And, Soraya, she's 14. So chances are that, and I may not even realize it right now, I never thought about it, but I actually, anyway, it just kind of makes me angry thinking about that. But the majority of women experience this abuse between the ages of 9 and 12. They are children. They are, and so they grow up in their formative years, they experience this abuse. And then as they get older, they're realizing that, okay, I need to, the physical part, that's not it for me, because I was touched in this way by this creep, by this evil person. And I know that touch does not equal love, but God has put love in it. So they desire it. So the women, because of the situation that they are put in, they are naturally looking for something that's deeper than just physical touch. And I remember it was last year, and I'm saying this is crazy because, I was an elder at Lambert, and trust me, I had all these sick ideas that I just read about. But it wasn't until last year when Elder Parmender stated that sex, well, there are a plethora of other ways to experience the fulfillment of love outside of sex. And I'm thinking about my crazy self, like, Richard, how did this not click? It's like, you kind of, like, some things on the surface, but then when he said that, it hit different. Like, okay, so the woman I've been married to for going on 18 years, this is what she's been trying to tell me all of these years. And the chances are, as we have conflict in our own marriages in this church, chances are that most of the husbands in our little church were just as blind as me. And so the sisters have to go through life with this pressure, with this frustration, because men don't listen, because we've not made the effort to be empathetic to what 8 out of 10 women have experienced. 8 out of 10 women. And if we don't invest ourselves and put ourselves in the sister's shoes, we are not going to make it, because that's what a Christian does. A Christian is like Christ. And Christ, he came and he put himself in our shoes. And we're supposed to do that for each other. We're supposed to put ourselves into our spouse's shoes and understand the pain that they go through. And we are to listen and just believe them when they tell us something. Because I know for me, it's easy for me to point out all the ways that racism happens. And to my friends who don't get it, I would tell them, like, how long have you been knowing me? am I just now going to start lying to you about, my experiences with racism and how every Black male that I've ever ran into had some negative uh, incident with the police, at least in Chicago? Every single Black male and Latino male that I've ever met had some type of negative run-in with the police that wasn't a fault of their own. And so when all the women on Venus are saying, you guys don't listen, us guys on Mars, we need to get on the spaceship and fly on over to Venus and live there and understand their life, what they go through, because that's exactly what Christ did. He left heaven to come to earth to be with us and to empathize with us so that when we're hurting, we know we have somebody to lean our head on, right? And we say, okay, Christ can comfort me. Why can't our wives do that to us? Why can't our wives, as they have experienced these traumatic incidents, why don't they feel comfortable coming to us? And the sad part about it is I was reading this one article that was talking about this abuse, and they were trying to say it in a positive way. But the gist of it is they stated that basically this abuse continues because women are silent about it. And you think about this, how is a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and 12-year-old who, in a lot of cases, haven't even, began their process into womanhood, by, what's the proper term for the monthly cycle?
Menstruation.
Menstruating, yeah. So they haven't even begun menstruation, and they've experienced sexual trauma. So how would my Lydia explain to me what happened to her? How is she going to explain sexual abuse to me if she's touched by a cousin or she's touched by an uncle, the one she always used to run to and hug, and then he touches her in a funny way, and then now she begins to be just a little bit timid, and me being the bad male, I'll tell my daughter, go give your uncle a hug, but he's fondled her. So this the stress that they have to live with and the things that women have to go through are totally unfair. But what they do, because they've retreated, right? This act has happened to them, and they retreat because, number one, women, thank God for the Me Too movement today, and the women who are coming forward to have this discussion and be willing to say anything. But a lot of times what the woman would do, if it's on the job, the trauma would affect her to the point that she might even leave her good paying job, or she might start missing work because she's scared and she don't know what to do. And there are a lot of other different reactions that women have that are a form of, retreating, but it's not their fault. And I'm saying retreating what I mean by retreating is they don't address the problem. And so they just never address the problem, I guess I stated. And so I had a list that might help me. Did I write it down? No. Let me see, I do have, no. Anyway, I had some of the what you call it, the results of the impact of this trauma, but I just didn't write it down, and I wish I had. But so one thing I do have written down is the stress is increased when they have the sexual trauma. They have relationship problems, depression, anxiety. They become unhappy with their body. And then just the memory of the rape or abuse causes them to do things that we would might scratch our head about, right? And so they retreat. They'll leave their job. They'll change the way they go to school. They'll change the path that they take to work. So many different things. I just wish I wrote it down, but I did not. I think it's actually in another note. But
change in physical appearance is huge. They can act out too in other
yes.
ways, like just so like retreating. I get what you're saying now with like not addressing the problem, because while some women can like just shut down altogether and not say anything, then there's the other extreme where some of these women just don't know how to process what happened, and they just consistently have behavioral patterns of destruction. You know, they'll be very sometimes like larger than life people, and yet have had that happen to them.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Is that type of like I said, things that we scratch our head at, and it shows up in so many different ways, and most of it we can attribute to sexual trauma in their childhood.
Brother Richard?
Yes.
I just wanted to add at this point, over the course of many years, I have personally have had conversations with several different women who had opened up to me and let me know that, you know, at different points in their life, when they were, I'm not talking about workplace, you know, sexual abuse or anything like that. We're on the subject at the moment about when you're a child and you're sexually abused when you were a child, and and every single one of these women who I've ever talked with, who I've ever been able to get on that subject with, that they brought it up to me, they've been able to let me know that the impact that it has is lifelong. I mean, I know that there's ways that women can seek counseling and do all that stuff, but most don't. And I don't want to say it in a negative way, but it permanently alters their ability to go through life and to have normal sexual relations with a man. And it also becomes very difficult for them in other ways. It affects their life in a very profound way, as you're saying, in ways that you wouldn't even think had anything to do with it. But it's just a way that they're trying to cope with it, or in a lot of cases, they're trying to bury it. They're trying to put it in their past and bury it, but they don't know how to completely bury it. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Right, and that's why we as men have to have empathy with women, because chances are every 10 women we walk by, 8 of them have had this trauma happen to them. So thank you, Brother Bob and Sister Lissa, for filling in the gap for me, because my brain, it did not work. Plus my mouth was getting super dry. So thank you for helping out on that part. And that's the gist of it, minus one last point. So again, go ahead.
Something that I remember reading a while back is the common trend with people that experience some kind of abuse in their youth is that they recreate that trauma that they experienced. That's why a lot of the time you see these things that don't make sense. I think you mentioned something like that, is a woman picks a man that is just completely toxic, a man that whatever, that abuses her and that like hits her, or, you know, whatever, all of these things, and you have no idea how anybody could, pick a man like that. And that's why a lot of times they say that these women that suffer abuse, they have a bad picker, because they just pick men that recreate that trauma that they experienced in their youth. And I don't know if I can explain it, like the psychology of all that, but I'm guessing is that like a normal person, a good, healthy man for the woman just seems strange. It seems, it seems weird. It seems off. It makes them uncomfortable because they don't know that what they do know, what their body knows, without actively thinking about it. Hey, what kind of man do I want? What am I pursuing? They don't have that. They have that instinct of, that feeling of the experience that they suffered, and they try to recreate that by picking a toxic person.
And that's something I really like that point, Brother Nathan, because when you think about it, not only has society told women that they are to submit, that they are to, the male is the superhero. So they're already conditioned to think that, okay, the male, he's supposed to be dominant in some way. And then when this trauma, and that's from a kid, children's movies and all of that, they raised up, they grow up, and then 9 to 12, they experience this abuse. And then it's like, how do we expect them to be able to make a good decision when it comes to choosing a spouse when their entire life they've been taught to look for these certain qualities in a man, and then this trauma happens to them, alters their brain, and then they can't make a good decision. And there's this one thing I was looking at, and it was talking about where's the evidence that women are abused at this rate, and that's where you get into the Me Too movement and how they are trying to empower women to come forward, because it's a lot more prevalent than we realize. And what did it say? It's a lot more prevalent, and women, they're scared to come forward, and some women can't even remember what happened in the trauma. So their brain has completely, they know that they were raped, but their brain has shut off what happened in that moment. They can't recall, they can't recall the scene of the crime because their brain has like shut down. And it's really sad that, that women go through this, but it's even worse how that we as men and society at large, we put the blame on the women for not coming forward, for not being strong. Like, could you imagine telling somebody, we're embarrassed to repeat a joke about ourselves. How do we expect somebody to come forward and talk about such a tragic thing that happened to them? And then we say, well, the onus is on you to come forward. It's like, no, the onus is on us to make ourselves empathetic to that situation. And this is my last point. When you look at what I'm about to say isn't it isn't foolproof, but it kind of expresses the idea of what I'm trying to get across. When you look at a company and they've had this glass ceiling in regards to women, you can only reach so high. What do? When they realize the error of their ways. So this business has been around for 50 years, and we realize that their whole board is men. Every position is held by a man. And then voila, one day, somebody sues them and is forced now to look at their practices. And what do? They make those changes, and they look at the women and say, well, you were denied this position this many times and you were more qualified than such and such. So what I'm going to do is you are now CFO, CEO, or whatever. You run the show. And so and granted, that isn't the sexual trauma per se, but it is still a sex-based trauma that happens to them when they are denied, equal opportunities for the simple fact that they are a woman. So businesses, they put women in places when they realize the error of their ways. So why won't we as men, namely men in this movement, and I'm not saying we are not trying, but it's just for, I think the word is hyperbole. Why don't we put ourselves in their shoes and believe and listen and become empathetic to what has happened to them and and how that's impacted their lives? So that was it. I pray that everyone could appreciate the time we're living in and appreciate where this movement has taken us to come to terms with our errors. And so especially us as men in this regards to sexism, I think each of us have to admit that we have participated in this cycle of abuse. Each of us are guilty. Each of us have benefited in some way from this sexual trauma that's happened to women, where there's an advance at a job because the woman, she had experienced a toxic situation before at another job. And then when it happens on her new job, she shies away and doesn't apply for that position. And so it's given to the male. We have benefited greatly. We've had our knee on the neck of women for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, just like George Floyd. And we are each guilty and have been willing participants in this. And now is the time for us to do better. We must do better. Our outlook must change. We must become empathetic, because that's what a Christian does, because that's what Christ does. We must put ourselves in to their shoes. So hopefully my presentation was a blessing and an eye-opener for you all, because I know it was to me too.
Amen.
So, amen.
Memories came back. Thank you.
Mm.
So good,
Amen.
but yeah, that was powerful.
Mm. Do I pray or? Okay.
Yeah, can I add something first, Richard?
Yes, I was done.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. You said something that at first I didn't see a point in it, but then it really hit me of men needing to come to Venus, so to speak, and see how it's been for the women, I guess, to encompass, all the abuse and all that. And at first I thought, I don't actually know what I dismissed it though as well. Men don't need to do that. But then I thought about it, and it actually made me cry, because, well, I don't know because, but it was actually really moving to imagine this, this guy, but also other brothers having an understanding. When I was 9, I was sexually molested by a 15-year-old in a house that I was best friends with the guy that did it. And my parents and a whole bunch of other parents were upstairs with the priest who is the principal of my school. And they were all having like a teacher night or a get together night, meet the principal with the parents. And so the kids were downstairs and well, anyway, details don't matter. But when it was done, I went upstairs immediately and told my mom, I want to go. And she dismissed me, actually, and said, no, we still have, more people to talk to or something. And I kind of was like, okay, then I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to say what happened. You're not taking what I just said seriously. So I'm going to ask for something that I've never asked you for. I want candy. Let's go so we can get some candy. And she was like, no, you're not allowed candy. You can go back downstairs and play with everybody. And while I didn't do that, and the kids from downstairs ended up coming upstairs and everybody was kind of getting ready to leave. And the brother was in his room playing video games. And before we left, I was just standing around feeling so stupid. And I go into this room where he's playing a computer game on the floor. And I sit down next to him and I say, so are we like boyfriend and girlfriend now? And he just laughs. He's like, no, that's not how this works. And so Mom and Dad and I get in the car, we're leaving. And that's when I just say, okay, I need to tell you what happened and why I was asking to leave. And the next morning we went to the police and I filed a report, and it ended up being that he was molesting another female, another little girl. She was, I don't remember if she was older or younger than me, but a neighbor for a lot longer. And if I hadn't come forward, that other girl would have still been, if not worse. And so I think it's really important for parents, I'm talking to you as a parent, of having the relationship with your girls of, okay, this is how you need to, expect to be treated from other people. This is how respectful people behave, are supposed to behave around you. If you are touched in any way that is not respectful, you need to feel comfortable coming to me and telling me that we need to do something, no matter what the situation is, no matter who's around. As the parent telling your daughter, you need to come and tell me so we can do something about it, no matter what situation I'm in, no matter if, you're surrounded by your buddies or whatever. And, just creating that relationship with your girls of tell me anything, anytime, and I'll do something about it. And I actually have to hand it to my mom for really, I don't know, I think she probably felt bad, but she pressed the police issue. And I actually went to counseling afterwards. And I found that was very helpful, because you said something about the bad picker, that women keep picking
Brother
these
Nathan,
men.
yeah.
And Nathan, yeah. And I really liked how you said how So women are picking them because they're trying to recreate that experience that they had with an abuser. And I think that's dead on. And I don't think when I had therapy when I was 9, I wasn't, interested in boys remotely, but so the counselor didn't even have a sexual type dialogue with me. It was actually kind of all about, Jesus and understanding, points from the other guy's side and, what Jesus would do. And it was an odd, but it gave me comfortability going to a therapist anyway, of knowing, okay, this person may not have, a direction that's helpful, but I'm not going to discount therapy. I'm just going to find somebody else that I jive a little bit better with. And I actually think that Nathan put the pen in the piece of paper up on the board, put the answer up of trying to recreate. Yeah, thank you. I was like, there's something to try and recreate those abusive relationships. And I'm going to tie in what you said, Richard, with it of needing to feel loved, that sexual encounter and women wanting to tie in, okay, you're my one and only now. And this is what, sex means to me. It means something deeper, where a guy's just like, no, I'm good. I'm done.
Right.
You go back to your planet and I'll find somebody else. Not all men are like that, but that was my experience with a lot of men, because I subconsciously had those. I mean, our brains are recording every bit of information. So not just like the physical looks of the guy, but little mannerisms that he had. I'm seeing my relationships in the past, and it's like, okay, I can actually see how I tried to recreate certain elements of that first initial abuse in my other relationships, because I'm thinking that, if I can only be somebody that they'll love.
Right.
So then I became a chameleon, for so long, from high school or grade school to high school and college and after college. And it was really, it wasn't healthy. I mean, my relationship, I think like the last 3 years, I've had more introspection than my whole life of kind of answers, pieces coming together. But the statistics that I was given at the police station was 1 in 4 girls were sexually abused in some way.
Mm.
So that was in 1989. Those were the statistics. And so
I bet
now
those statistics weren't kept. They weren't real life statistics. There's probably a lot worse.
Well, no, and that was the thing that the officer said, is that this is 1 in 4 that we can verify. People like me who came forward and pressed charges. So she said that it's actually probably double, which 80% is still a little bit more than double.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, but I did not take a stance afterwards as being a victim.
Are you there, sis? I can't hear you.
No, we lost her. Oh, there she's back.
Oh, I'm back. Sorry. So I asked to take self-defense classes. I was the youngest girl that the self-defense instructor ever had, and I demanded to be in it because I knew that if I didn't learn to defend myself, nobody else would.
Mm.
And so that was, I mean, all these things like add up to a different experience for a woman, a different life than they would have imagined themselves, probably. I mean, I remember having like names of babies, like males and female names. I mean, the Disney princess image of, you know, princess finding her prince one day. I mean, I was bought and sold into that of, I just need to find my prince. And we're going to have babies before I'm 9 years old. And I think it probably compounded afterwards, but the subservientness to guys, like that was, while that was still like something that I fought to have a participation in a class that would teach me to defend myself in relationships, I still saw the men as somebody that I needed to change in order to please. And so there's elements of self-abuse too, that I think anybody who experiences sexual abuse, perpetrator or victim of it, maybe we all have had some level of abuse, which, you know, has kind of made it easier for us collectively to kind of sweep things under the rug, to keep that part of our collective awareness in the back where, you know, the old brooms and things go when we don't want to look at them. And so to have somebody like Tess and Parminder and yourself come to say that, no, it's actually needful to look at those things before we, you know, can consider being fully mature people, even of having a place in heaven where we have had all of these things dealt with, where every bit of that sin within ourselves that we've experienced or perpetrated is dealt with. And I think it's all comes back to who are we trying to love. And the APIS Bowl studies in particular, it's like, okay, are we truly seeking to love who we think that we're looking for, or do we need to pay closer attention to who's actually in front of us and get to know God the way that he's showing us? And then likewise for a spouse, for a partner, instead of having this idealized version of a person, you know, getting very crystal clear on who that person is that's in front of you.
Yeah, this is I'll say this last thing, then I'll pray. But it's just an example. 'Cause of course there is sexual abuse that happens to men, but it's on a much smaller scale. But just to show the impact, there's these two people that I really idolized as a youth, and I know we all know one. We may all not know the other. But there's this boxer. His name is Mike Tyson. And there's this rapper, his name, stage name is DMX. Both of them were sexually abused as children, and they reacted. And you look at how their lives have changed today. And I'll just say this, I won't deal with DMX again, but Mike Tyson, he was sexually abused as a child. And that triggered his mind to go to a place where he would never be hurt again. And that's how he became this vicious boxer who was always trying to, literally when he gets in the ring, to try to kill somebody. through he was dealing with it in the form of boxing. You look at he was an animal. He was a complete animal, and it's based upon sexual trauma. So we see what happens to a male, and it's considered good to do those things, to go out and be a boxer and be a fighter. Imagine how women deal with it when they've already been taught that, okay, you're subservient in some way, form, or fashion. And imagine the different ways that women have to deal with that trauma. So anyway, I'll pray. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for blessing us on the Sabbath, Lord, to have fellowship once again together via Zoom. Lord, you had all of this in mind. Lord, you've touched people's mind to create things, Lord, so that your message can go to the world, and even for all the world to, we see the world getting, put into two different sides, the sheep and the goats. And Lord, we want to be on the right side. Lord, even us as priests, we know you have a high calling and a work for us to do. But Lord, you have to finish this good work you started in us. And we have to be made whole, Lord, in order to help someone else be made whole. So I pray that we were sharing each other's experience. And as we go through our day-to-day business, Lord, I pray that we have empathy for each other. And Lord, we would have an understanding ear, Lord, and a kind tongue, and just be like a cold glass of water in the desert, Lord, for people to drink from. Because so many people are hurting, Lord, in so many different ways. Lord, I don't even know how you deal with it. You see the pain of everyone, and you're still able, Lord, to deal with it and to love us and to care for us, Lord, and even in spite of the evil things we ourselves have done. But we know this life is not the ideal. This is not what you intended for any of us to go through. This was never a part of your plan. But nevertheless, we're here because of free will. And Lord, we want to be made whole. This little church, or this country of the United States, or RPR, we want to, as we fall under the umbrella of RPR, we want to get it together, Lord. And then, Lord, the world, Lord, under the leadership of Elder Parmender and Elder Tess, Lord, we want to make these truths sit on the throne of our heart, Lord, so that we can navigate through this world. And when people see us, Lord, we'll look just like your son. So bless us, Lord, to this end, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brother Richard.
Yeah,
you're
thank you,
welcome, sister.
Richard.
You're welcome.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Thank you, Richard.
Hey, everybody.
Happy Sabbath.
Oh, this. There you are. Where are you?
Hey.
Where is Jim?
Right. Oh, you guys got a fireplace there?
Oh, that's so nice.
Oh, we turned it backwards.
We got it backwards.
Oh, sorry, we got it
Oh.
backwards. Yeah, we have a little wood stove.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, just got it? Or you
that
always
came
had
in
it?
handy.
Yeah, they always had it.
About a year.
Okay. Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, fireplace.
They really
heat
came in
on a cold
handy.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. My girls are so sad we are not in Arkansas when they saw all that snow.
Aw.
What? Been here, in Arkansas 3 years and never had anything like that. Then we leave. So a month later and got all kind of snow. Boy, they were like, this is unbelievable.
Quite shocking, but we're all
I
done.
know.
If we have it.
If you would have told me it was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed it.
And thankfully, it's going to start melting this week.
Yes,
Yay.
Yeah.
It's been
yes.
beautiful and I love it, but I'm ready for it to go away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amen.
Yeah. That's what Mom said too.
Yeah. You got to tell her we said hello.
I will. And she's enjoying nature. I asked if she would feel okay because she asked who it was, and I said Richard. And I said, "Do you want to listen in and have it, have it on speaker?" She's like, "I'm gonna go outside." It's like, well, okay.